We're going to be talking today about simplifying mediumship. So I know everybody, it's like the holy grail of mediumship. How do we make this easier, right? So what I want to do, and some of you know that this year I have started a series of classes where we're really focusing on finding ways to really embody and build pathways to be able to make mediumship more natural, right? So the last time we met about this, we were talking about story, how to receive, how to lay those pathways so that we can naturally receive story, a storyline, so we can receive sort of the fullness of what's going on in our mediumship. Because I'm sure most of you, like me, have become aware that often it's like we are listening to somebody listing a grocery list, you know, just facts, 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 lots of facts, marvelous, beautiful, lovely facts. Facts don't bring us the sense of the presence of the communicator, right? Mediumship can be much bigger than it has become. When mediumship merged with spiritualism in the late 1800s, it was phenomenal. There was all sorts of great things going on. There was physical mediumship. There was lots of really interesting things going on. And what we've done is, and I say we, just sort of human race generally, so that when we get into doing mediumship today, it's become this, let's just get loads of facts. The biggest questions is, how do I get more evidence? How do I get names? How do I get passing conditions? All this sort of stuff. And that's where the focus has become in mediumship. But mediumship is much, much bigger than that. Right? What we are doing in mediumship is turning our awareness that there is one singular, endless and infinite stream of consciousness. There is the super consciousness, whatever name you want to call that, and that all thoughts, all presence is within that. And we know this from the consciousness theorists now and consciousness studies that sort of see, even in our physical presence, that the brain is more of an antenna tuning in a particular droplet of consciousness that we get to recognize as ourselves, so that we are always, even in this form, in that stream of consciousness. Which means when we do mediumship, it should be a conversation. It should be a conversation that's naturally flowing to us, and that details we understand that are emerging from our innate understanding within us, right? So a lot of the time you see, and I'm sure if you really think about it and are really honest with yourselves, we often with mediumship, we're thinking outside ourselves. How can I go and grab the name of this person? How can I go and grab, you know, the car they drove? Or how can I go grab how they died? We're always sort of reaching outside ourselves, sort of try to shake our spirit communicators out of a tree, right, and get information out of them. Right? Most of you have heard me talk about this before. So I'm a huge believer in normalizing mediumship. We just turn our awareness to listen. We don't have to wave feathers and turn around 3 times and, you know, bang a bunch of chimes. All we do is turn our awareness. So it's like having a conversation with 2 people in a restaurant. One person's talking, you're listening to them. The other person starts talking, you turn your attention and you listen to them. And we need to start normalizing mediumship in this way to get out of this, let me go do a whole bunch of rituals to try to find out what color shoes this person favored in their life, or whatever it is, right? Presence. If you think you're now in the spirit world and you want to come and you want to talk to your loved ones, are you just going to come with a checkbox? Check, 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 check. Let me get these 10 facts across, you'll know who it is. Is it enough just to be, oh, she knows who it is? I mean, if you're in the spirit world and you want to talk to your child, for example, who's here, will you be satisfied with just coming, giving 10 facts? I had pink hair, I drove a SUV, I worked as a nurse, I did whatever. You know, is that going to be satisfying to you in talking to your child? Is that good? Would that be enough for you? Let me give them 10 facts and then I'll be back. I'll be gone. I mean, think about it. Anybody think that would be enough for you? No. So if it's not enough for us, why do we think it's enough for them? Right? So we just need to think, we need to shift how we think about this. So people generally, when we start making our contacts with the spirit world, if we're doing a public or a service or a church service or a public demonstration, you've got maybe 8 minutes, right? You're going to work with one person for 8 minutes. And then if you're doing a private sitting, you're probably going to be working with somebody for 30 minutes. Well, if your dear old Nan died at 88, she's got 88 years of experiences and facts and everything else that she can share. And she's got to pick from that life experience something she can share in either 8 minutes or 30 minutes. So what's she going to share? What would you share? Think about it. You would share whatever is most important to you to share, to tell your loved one, right? Would you be sharing, oh, my favorite thing was bananas and I like to go on my holidays to Ibiza? Of course not. You would be there. You have just been separated by the person that you love dearly. You're going to want them to feel your presence, to know you're there, to feel the hug, to feel the love. So the facts and the evidence are essential. Obviously, we need to know who we're talking to, but that's just a tiny part. It's like the iceberg. It's the 10% above the water, because the real communication is beyond that. The real communication is, we make 5 facts. I've got your gran here. She's from Iceland and, you know, she had 10 children and 5 dogs and a goat. Oh yes, that's my grandmother. Marvelous. Now let's get into what the grandmother really wants to talk about. What does she really want to say? What would you really want to say? Would that be enough? I had 2 goats. You know who I am? Marvelous. Okay, see, that was nice seeing you again. Off I go. You are going to use every second of that 8 minutes or that 30 minutes to bring forward something really powerful that you have been waiting to say. Right? Because we think, oh, if only I had said this before my dad passed, or I wish I had said this, or I wish I had that. You think that they don't have those feelings as well, those thoughts as well. So this is what they're trying to say. Mediumship, the faculty itself, is capable of something far, far greater than the little shrinkage that mediumship, modern mediumship, has become. So we need to be able to get beyond facts, and we need to be able to get into understanding their story. We need to be able to get into understanding their character so that their presence is felt. And you never know, like we think, oh, well, this is really good evidence. Have you ever heard that? What's really good evidence? Really good evidence is this. I remember one time working with somebody and I was thinking, I thought, oh, marvelous. I thought, I'm so marvelous. I'm giving this person marvelous evidence, great details, loads of great details. And then at one point I said, God, your husband is really difficult. And that word, difficult, was like, yes, he is so difficult. And that's the thing, that was the penny that dropped for her, was just the word difficult, because he was a terribly difficult man. You know, so it's not for, my cats are joining in. It's not for us to decide what's the great evidence. That's not for us. It's for us to surrender to their greater wisdom. They know better than you what their loved one needs to hear. All right? And then to move beyond the old grocery list style mediumship, we want to be able to really start to embody character, right? Now, I see from the questions that were sent in, and I get a lot of the same questions. How do I get more mediumship? How do I blend? And I'll get to all of those in a minute. But what I want to say is, and I've said this before, some of you have heard me say this before, mediumship is not something we do for 8 minutes or 30 minutes when we sit down and decide we're going to do it. Right? Mediumship is something we are. Mediumship is not something you do, it's something you are. What you have and what exists within your life is what the spirit world will use to communicate with their loved one. Right? So some of you have heard me tell the story before. There was an Irish medium called Albert Best, Northern Irish, and he would stand up and he would give out every single person, every single contact he made, he could give the person's full address, right? The whole exact full address. People are like, how on earth? Wouldn't we all love that? Can you imagine? I've got your granddad here. He lived at, 15 Manor Street and whatever. Oh yeah, perfect. I mean, how about spot on evidence? Well, do you know why Albert Best got everybody's addresses? Because Albert Best was a postman. So Albert Best knew how to receive addresses because those pathways were already laid in his mind. So when people say, how do I get more evidence? You don't get it by reaching out and trying to snatch it and kind of drag people out to the spirit world by the toes. You get it by developing the pathways within yourself to receive it. So when we did storytelling, we worked on the art of storytelling every day. And some of the people here today, we took this class with me, went out every day and picked up stories and paid attention to all the little million stories that are going on around us in everybody's moment and all day, every day, and started developing the pathways to understand that's not just a man with a dog. That's a man who has this dog. This dog looks very old. And you start to look at what's the relationship between that dog. What could the story be with this man who has this dog? Is it just him and his dog? And you stop and you pay attention. And you pay attention to the person's story. And when we do that, and when we live that in our normal life, that naturally emerges in our mediumship without us even having to try. So the question is not, how do I get more evidence in my mediumship? It's how do I pay attention? How do I pay attention to the world around me in such a way that the spirit world knows I can understand that to then give it to me? Right? So then you don't just have, I've got a man here with a Labrador. You understand when they talk to you about the dog that there's a whole rich story there behind it. It's the same with character. So you've probably heard, or you go, oh, I've got your granddad here. I know he's got a sense of humor. And I also know he worked in a factory. And I also know this, and I also know that. Well, wait. He's wanted to talk about a sense of humor. Why? There's going to be a reason. Don't forget, 88, 90, 100 years of life crammed into 8 minutes. Every single detail they choose to share with you will have significance, right? So, I've got a sense of you. Got your granddad here, he's got a sense of humor. Why has he got a sense of humor? What kind of sense of humor? What did he find funny? Was his life really hard and he developed a sense of humor? Was he infuriating? Because some people are really annoying with their sense of humor. Some people are really sarcastic. What's the nuance of this character trait? Because the what is the least interesting thing in mediumship. The why is the most interesting thing. Why does he have a sense of humor? Right? The why is always the more interesting than the what. The what's just a fact. The why opens the character in the story. Right? You see that. So when you start to move through your world, paying attention to the nuances of other people's characters or the nuances of other people's stories, your mind then becomes wired to constantly be seeing and watching and receiving that information so that it becomes automatic. Right? It becomes automatic. So people say, oh, how can I get more evidence in my mediumship? Make it automatic. How do you make it automatic? By living it. Right? Could it be any easier? It's like the Holy Grail. How do I get the colour of their shoes? Well, what if he doesn't want to talk about the colour of his shoes? Why would he want to talk about? He's got 8 minutes and you think he wants to talk about the colour of his shoes. Now, I have had people come talking about the colour of the shoes because they were the shoes they wore in their coffin, or they were the shoes they wore in the first dance when they met their wife and took them out trying to show off with their shiny shoes. There's going to be a story to it. Every single thing there's a story to. There's a reason. There's a why. So when we actually go and approach our lives to receive this information, to be present and aware of that information, we don't even have to think about it in our mediumship. Do you think Albert Best had to sort of start Google mapping, trying to find out where somebody lived? He just naturally flowed into his awareness because the pathway was already there. Right. This is how we simplify mediumship. We stop wrestling with it like it's an octopus. Oh, I've got to get this, and I've got to get that, and I've got to get this. Shut up. What do they want to say? Let them speak. When you're in your head going, I need to know how they died, and I need to know what they look like, and I need to know this, and I need to know this. It's like having a conversation with somebody who won't shut up. Right? Have you ever done that? Trying to say something, they won't shut up. You're trying to tell them something, they keep butting in with a whole bunch of questions that have got no relevance to anything. Stop. Stop. Be present. Develop the pathways and let them speak. All right? that be any easier? We can run around like mediumship is some great, big, complicated thing. And that this person over there can get this, and that person over there can get names. And I never get names. I don't even ask for names. You know, I can't even remember the name of the person next door to me. I have no aptitude for remembering names. So why would I torture myself trying to get names out of somebody in the spirit world? No, focus on what comes naturally to me. Like I've said this when we were doing the storytelling class. In Ireland is full of natural storytellers, and Helena will attest to this. We're just a nation of storytellers. And so story comes naturally, which is why we've got so many writers in such a tiny little space. Story comes naturally to us. So when you go to Ireland, people don't go say, hi, how's it going? How are you? People come up to you and say, hey, what's the story? So we're always naturally storytellers. We live as storytellers. We're always looking for the story in everything. So in mediumship, the story just is naturally there because that's where the mind goes, you know. Same with character, same with everything. So it's stop trying to make them talk about something they don't want to talk about and trust that they want to be known to their loved one. They didn't go through all of this time and effort to try to communicate with their loved one here, to be cryptic. How does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't belong, right? They are going to go, I'm going to say these 5 things and she'll really know it's me. And then that person will decide what those details are. And then your job is just to shut up, receive it, share it, get out of the way and let them be present. We keep thinking we've got to be in the middle of it all, doing a whole bunch of stuff. We need to let them speak, right? You're all feeling better about your mediumship now. So, you know. So in other words, stop doing so much. You need to do less. You need to do less on your cushion. You need to do more in your life. Right? Pretty easy. You just have to get out of yourself to pay attention to the guy with the dog at the bus stop and whatnot. Right? So I want to introduce my very good friend, who actually is the person who filmed me walking around in the park for my little bio that you went out. That was Helena here. And I just want to introduce Helena. So Helena there, do you want to just wave or turn your microphone?
Yes, it's lovely to be here. It's such a fascinating subject. So I'm kind of sitting here in awe, listening to Karen talk about it. So I'm delighted to spend this hour together, I think, at this stage. Yeah.
So just to let some of you know a little bit about Helena. So Helena Walsh, and I want you, if any of you are interested in Helena's work, I'm going to share her website with you as well, because she does astonishing work. And I've gone to Helena myself on occasions and said, I need you to teach me how to public speak. I need you to work with the voice, all these sorts of stuff. So she's a very, very versatile teacher, but she is a highly recognized and highly esteemed acting coach, voice coach and empowerment coach. She's been doing it for 30 years. She doesn't look old enough, I know, but she has. She runs the Helena Walsh Empowerment Studios there, based in Dublin, but works internationally. And she does a lot of work with the performing arts, somatic sciences. And a lot of you have heard me talk about somatic work in our healing courses that we've done them before. And her focus is really to help individuals bring greater authenticity, resilience and creative freedom to their work, which I say to her all the time as we're wandering around, that's exactly what we should be doing in mediumship. Hence why Helena has come along to join us today. She created a system called the Creative Path that uses the intelligence and the nervous system with our artistic awareness. And she works in London, Dublin, New York, and various people all around the world. And I think lots of people travel to Ireland to work with her as well, and go surfing, I do believe. So if you fancy a surfing holiday in the west coast of Ireland, get hold of Helena. So she does a lot of empowerment and resilient programs for like major organizations like Google, LinkedIn, Facebook as well. So all around, incredibly talented and incredibly effective teacher. I actually watch all her Instagram. I do advise you all to follow her on Instagram. Every day she posts really, really interesting things about working with character. She founded the Actors Practice as well, and has certifications in somatic and voice methodologies. So very impressive background has our Helena here. So, Helena, do you want to, this kind of came about because I wander about in Dublin every time I'm at home, listening to Helena talk about acting, and I go, we really need to develop some of these techniques to bring into mediumship. So when we did the storyteller as a writer, I was bringing a lot of the art of storytelling, the techniques of storytelling into those teachings. But since Helena is the expert on the actor studio, and I have to admit, I've bookmarked some of her little Instagram things and said, I'm going to borrow that for my mediumship class. So I thought we'll bring Helena along. You can hear it all from the horse's mouth. So Helena, do you want to talk a little bit about character? As you're very experimental, so everybody, and very, very effective. So everyone keep a really open mind as we go. While we go on, at the end of the class, Helena's going to work with you on some techniques, and at the very end of our little gathering today, I'll work with some ways we can bring those, just for a short little practice, into our meeting. So, Helena.
Okay, wonderful. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here. So it's lovely to see some of your faces on screen. That's always allows me build relationship with you and see your smiles and your body language, which is nice. And I'm glad to see that there's a few of us who have wonderful glasses on. I still get very excited about the aging process and that my eyes now need these. I have blue ones. Yeah, so I enjoy buying different colors. So that's kind of nice also to see. So it was wonderful listening to Karen there. So I feel what I'd love to do is give you a sense of for every creative life, and what I'm hearing is that mediumship is an art form, and that what I call the creative source, you have you have different names for the same thing, but maybe as an actor or an artist, they're channeling it in a particular direction, and you are channeling it in another direction. So it's kind of very powerful to think of once we tap into this source, that it's all truly originally coming through each of us, just like a fingerprint, in a way that's unique to us. And how you see, hear, touch in your listening another person as you are allowing the medium come through will be very different for each of you. Like I was interested to hear Karen say, I can't remember names, so I don't bring that into my mediumship. So, and how is it that you pay attention to people and the world around you is going to be very unique to each of you. So it's the same when I'm working with an artist, that really what I'm interested in is their original way of being, feeling, seeing, and touching the world. And it is that makes it universal. It's this real connection between I pay attention to the world and I experience it through me. I see you and feel me. So there's this relationship between the outside and the inside, which is very important. Outside, inside. So when I'm working with an artist, they're working with stories. So the stories on the outside, you're working with a person who is just a story in human form. We're all stories intergenerationally, ancestrally, and you're calling on ancestral stories, which is very powerful and beautiful. So I've developed this system, which I call the creative path. And how I break it down is into the creative mind and the creative body. And within the creative mind, there are two corridors of perception. You have the imagination, your image corridor, and you have the meaning channel, which is where our thoughts, our insights come through. And that's the creative mind. And then you have the creative body, which has the channels of perception or corridors of perception of the senses, sensation, and emotion. So there's a creative mind and the creative body. And I put this there's an acronym of mosaic. So I'll give you that title because it's the easiest way to remember these different corridors of perception. So if you write the word mosaic, MOSAIC, for some of you who are writing. Yeah. And M is for meaning. O is for orientation. S is for sensation. A is for affect. I for imagination. And C for consciousness. Okay? So these different corridors of perception that I'm talking about through the creative mind, the creative body, creative mind, your imagination, your meaning channel, creative body, orientation being your senses, sensation, and emotion. It sounds like these are the corridors of perception. And when Karen was talking, that as you're paying attention to another human being and you're receiving information, that's coming through these different corridors of perception. So that when you want to work in more detail, and the story, Karen, that you told of the grandfather who has a sense of humor, you might just spend a little bit longer. And if you have a sense of presencing, which we'll work on together now in a moment, images and sensations and emotions and thoughts, those different corridors of perception can start to fill your being full of information that give you a kind of wholesome memory. That, as you're saying, Karen, just one memory that's really detailed can have a profound effect, like you spoke about the lady who said, it sounds like your husband's really difficult, that you went into something that really landed with the person who was listening to you and probably opened up a whole constellation, what we call neural, you've got these neural pathways, memories coded in your brain body relationship. And if depending on the language you use, it can really open up those associative networks for the person that you're speaking to. So when I'm working with artists, their job is to take the story and fill their imagination, their thoughts, their sensations, their emotions, their consciousness, their unconscious, full of the world of that story. So much so that their body, their nervous system, their muscles, their bones start to move in response to that story. And that's how an actor over weeks and months develops this authentic relationship. Then when they walk onto a film set, they just have to be there because the story is already lived within them because they've spent the weeks and months building the memories of this particular world in a way. And then they just need to be present to another story and relate. So, from your perspective, that sense of when Karen is speaking of, you're paying attention to your life, you're receiving it maybe through sensation, emotion, thoughts, images, and then you might gain insight. So as you see it, you're experiencing something. And then you might, I think you've been writing maybe the stories over the last weeks of what you see. That's how an artist creates. They see something in the outside world, they experience a response to it, and then they go write a poem, a story, a musical, a novel, a feature film, a play, whatever it might be. So this paying attention to the outside world, receiving it through these different channels and corridors of perception, it's a practice. So you're not just seeing the world and noticing what do I think of what I see, hear, and touch, but you're actually seeing the colors, the textures. You're also hearing the sounds that are present as you see what you see. You're also noticing the sensation and emotion that might come up in you as you see what you see. And now there might be an insight, a meaning. So I might currently look at the magnolia tree in my garden. And as I look at it, I might have a sense of warmth in my chest, an ease in my belly. And then as the memory arises of the day that I planted it, as I got it for my 50th birthday from 6 of my friends, it was such a surprise. I asked for a plant. I didn't expect a tree. Yeah, that constantly, every time I grow it, reminds me of our friendship. So there's these, if you look around the world, everything is a symbol. If you take the time to slow down, to allow these different corridors of perception to give it its wholesome experience, the whole entire experience. So a lot of the time when I've been working with artists, they can be very alive in their meaning channel and their image channel and their emotional channel. So there can be a triangle. But what that leads to is a lot of intensity, but not a lot of differentiation. And I think this, Karen, is what you're speaking into. If you're only working off certain corridors of perception and shutting out the others, then you don't get the details. And the details bring the differentiation. They allow it become specific and subtle and nuanced and unique. And those details come through your senses and your sensations. So in life, really, we're designed as a neurobiology to experience our life in lower vibrations. When we're heightened and our nervous system is activated, it's very difficult to receive life because there's lots of thoughts going on. There might be a lot of emotions happening. Whereas when we're grounded into our senses, as then we can kind of more easily observe emotions, thoughts, images, which it sounds like when Karen speaks about your mediumship, that if you have this sense of orientation and this alive, alert, still place that you can come to, then the downloads that you're receiving can be clearer from all the different corridors of perception, and they become more differentiated, more detailed. You're painting now all like an artist in 3 dimensions. Um, so that shape of these corridors of perception, we've been educated into a hierarchy that the creative mind is the holy grail. We're now in a time on the planet where we're moving more into a deeper understanding of the implicit, the body, and how the body and the mind can live together. And as we can see, that can bring up a lot of conflict on all different dimensions in our world. And when you start to come into the body, there is conflict that exists, but we can love and we can rage, we can desire and we can wish to retreat. So the body has paradox quite naturally within it. And the work that you're doing is holding the space for paradox, for complexity, for opposition, to live within the story, because that brings shade and dark and light to the person that you are communicating from as you work with this other person through mediumship. In the beginning, we're always going through what feels easeful, what feels pleasurable, what feels good. What that does is it trains a foundation of comfort, yeah, and a foundation of solidity. So that when things are more complex, maybe more painful, or there's more struggle involved, you have the foundation of ease and comfort in the body to have the bandwidth to be with them. So if I'm working with actors, the more they're grounded and oriented, the more complex the character can be within them, the more paradox they can be with, and they can, pain and love can coexist. Whereas if they're disoriented and dysregulated in their nervous systems, they can find these heavier characters much harder to play, actually, and much harder to get out of when they finish playing. So a lot of the time, when I work with artists, I'm getting them to step into the art form and to step out of the art form, to step into story and to step out of story. Why? Because the nervous system wants to know, okay, here's my sacred entrance into story. I'm in the story, I'm receiving what I'm receiving, I'm being affected, and I'm communicating how I'm being affected. And then I also want to let my body know and take care of it. And now I'm back here. I can see my magnolia tree. I can see the rain. I can feel the leather chair beneath my hips. I can feel my elbows on the arms of my chair. I can feel the soft coldness of the leather. So now my body's back to this moment and here and now. So we're going to explore that a little so you can get a practical experience of what I'm talking about. So again, everything is an invitation with the body. The body is wild and um, curious, and doesn't really like to be directed. So it likes to kind of find its own way like a child, which is why I love the body and its wily ways. So anything that I offer you in relationship to this practice right now, you go at your level and you explore it as much as you wish. It's very simple. So just from this moment, we might, if you have a pen, we might put it down. I'm going to invite you to just notice, could you be even more comfortable? Your feet, your hips, your back, your arms, your head, your neck. Could they be even more comfortable? I do think the posture with which we receive can really offer us as the creative being, which is what I feel you all are, a kind of sense of stability and support ever before we invite someone into that. So just here now in this moment, notice how it is to feel the floor beneath your feet and what feels comforting, easeful about that. It could feel soft, warm, heavy. Yeah, what is here already that feels supportive to you? Yeah, just touching in with it very gently, not long. And then begin to notice what other parts of your body feel supported right now by the external environment. Maybe it's your lower back by the chair, or it's your elbows or your arms. Yeah, maybe there's a desire to shift a little, to get a little bit more comfort. What other part of your body are you paying attention to right now that feels solid, easy, comfortable, warm? Yeah. And maybe you even notice what feels good about that. This practice of paying attention. This support is always here, all the time, in any given environment. And then from here, unlike most kind of body work where we close our eyes and go in, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes and allow those eyes to wander around the space, the environment that you're in. And in particular, become curious about the things in your space that your eyes enjoy seeing. The things in your space, the objects, the pictures that your eyes enjoy seeing. And just landing lightly like a butterfly would on a flower, just noticing it, and then wandering to something else that your eyes enjoy seeing. Yeah, first of all, we're noticing the environment and the things in the environment that offer our eyes enjoyment, comfort, ease, which is different to what I think about it. It's actually a feeling. And then at some point, just rest your eyes on something you enjoy seeing. And as the eyes rest there, noticing maybe the colors, the textures, the shape. And as your system slows down to really see if you can also include what feels solid in your body right now. So as you see what you see in your environment that the eyes enjoy, can you also notice what's happening on a body level that feels solid, supportive? So you have outside and inside. And it's okay if you can only do one or the other. This is a real practice that takes time to come into this presencing. I see the object and I feel myself. I see the person and I experience something within me. It's a very simple practice. Yeah. And we're just doing it gently. So take a look around the room now and begin to notice the different colors, and in particular colors that you enjoy seeing. that the eyes enjoy seeing. Letting the eyes choose in a way rather than the mind or the thoughts. And then as you explore that, maybe there's a particular color that you're more drawn to, inviting your eyes to rest in that particular color. And then same. We are noticing something on the outside, slowing down our nervous system to include what feels solid on the inside as we see the color on the outside. Yeah. And then from this place, I mean, I'm only gently introducing it. You can then, when you invite another person who comes into your session, you can then, from this live, alert, still place, begin to notice sensations, emotions, thoughts, insights, story. But it's anchored in a deep, simple presencing of the here and now. So the only way into the present moment is through the senses. What do I see? What do I hear? What do I touch? Because the nervous system, in order to come into a state of ease, needs to not know who it is, it needs to know where it is. Can I see, hear, and touch? Because if the neurobiology can see, hear, and touch something that feels easeful, pleasurable, good, is going to bring your nervous system down to an alive, stable, centered anchor so that then you can receive the messages from a really oriented place. Yeah. And you can really pay attention to another person then from this place. Yeah. And this is a practice for you, for your neurobiological health. And then it has an enormous effect on the kind of place you're going to come from with the people that you're having sessions with. And then when Karen describes those first, if you have 8, 10 minutes, we call this the first 30 seconds is a holographic blue, that those first 30 seconds you're with someone, they're very powerful moments because they're a real pure meeting of one person's consciousness with another. We do this with story, so we're coming off the impulsive, intuitive self. And that's much easier if you or yourself are grounded in your own nervous system. Yeah, yeah, very beautiful. And I can see the difference now on the screen in your bodies. Yeah, so this effect of you are creating the anatomical posture really um, of peace so that you can then allow and a lot of the work I do a lot of work around peace and reconciliation with the nervous systems of groups as well, and this is a knock-on effect one-to-one. It also has wonderful dynamic effect on groups. One grounded, oriented nervous system within a group, receiving story, expressing story, really integrates the person in front of you, the audience in front of you, whoever that might be. It's actually peace and reconciliation work, actually, in a massive way, but it's your own neurobiology. So we are designed for peace. We are designed. It's just that the world it can be so chaotic that we get overstimulated and we don't know what to see, hear, and touch. But you can strategically go, what do I see, hear, and touch that feels easy, pleasurable, comfortable? It is a strategic use of attention. It's not just going, see, hear, and touch whatever you want, because if the nervous system is dysregulated, it's only going to see, hear, and touch what's wrong. Yeah, because the nervous system decides what we see, hear, and touch. Yeah, but if your nervous system is grounded and anchored, then you can be with the other without judgment and expectation, and you can kind of receive in a much purer way and be with this other person. Yeah. Okay, I know that we said I'd do 20 minutes. So I'd be interested maybe just in the last 10 seconds that to pop in the chat box how one word to describe how was it when you did the orientation exercise? What was that experience for you when you really slowed your being down to just come into relationship with the here and now? You know, the sense of only in presence can we experience light, you know, and that it is presence that sheds light on the shadow, the dark, the past, kind of predicts the future. That predictive quality of our brains really happens in the present moment. And it's very ordinary work. It's like um, gardening, really. It's not extraordinary work. It's a kind of daily practice of being here. So I'm just wondering if you pop in the chat box, how is it on a body level when you actually come into that oriented space? I think Karen might, yeah, there we go. Balance, it's lovely. Yeah. Openness. Yeah. Centered. Yeah. Grounded. Yeah. Floating. Yeah. Beautiful. Present, aware, more being. Yeah. Very nice. Yeah. Beautiful. So it's interesting, isn't it? A couple of minutes and we all arrive at who we already are, which is when we give ourselves time, translate, we can be grounded, balanced. Yeah, it's here all the time. Very beautiful. So thank you very much for listening. I'm going to pass you over to Karen now. So
Thank
yeah.
you. That was really beautiful. And I think on multiple levels, you know, when we talk about this work and we talk about the mediumship, really what Helena has brought you through there is what we talk about all the time. Mediumship is experience. It's not snatching, it's not analyzing, it's not grabbing, it's not sort of coming up with some system. It really starts and ends with presence and awareness. And what I love about that practice that Helena, that you brought everyone through, is the place we start from to be able to receive, you know. And when we bring that sort of attitude and that sort of awareness into our lives in general, and we start to embody that into our awareness of what's going on around us, then we start to create then what becomes a very authentic and very holistical form of mediumship that really gives voice to the spirit through our own awareness, our own presence, the quietness of our mind. So we're not chattering. You know, like a bunch of questions, you know, I got on the forums coming in where people saying, how do I know if it's me or my mind? How do I know if it's this or that? How do I know if it's my imagination? And it starts with two things. One, with that sort of presence and groundedness and quietness and spaciousness that Helena was talking about. And it also comes, and a lot of you have heard me talk about this before, from the sort of supportive practices like sitting in the power, like attunement practices, so that you can actually feel the changes in your own energetic signature when we move into mediumship. So you've got your normal waking, rushing around, trying to catch the bus sort of way of being. And when we sit in attunement, we are changing our energetic signature, and it becomes over time something we feel. And as we do these practices that Helena's talking about, when we're that present with ourselves to those levels of nuances, then it becomes very, very easy to know when we moved energetically into a state of attunement and when we're not. And if we are in a state of attunement, everything is coming from the spirit. And if we are not in a state of attunement, everything's coming from our mind. It's really that simple. We spend a lot of time going, is it them? Trying to analyze it. And it's simple. Move into the energetic state of attunement or not. It's really one or the other, right? Couple of quick things. One is anybody who is interested in Helena's work, and we'll put this in the email for you all that goes out with the recording. This is Helena's website, her beautiful website. And you do classes online, do you as well? Yeah, so if any of you are interested developing any of these techniques from that perspective, which is beautiful, you can go visit Helena's website and check out what's going on. And for those of you who are in the States and whatnot, or anywhere else, well, actually, some of you in Britain, and she does classes in London, I think. But for the rest of you, if you want to choose to take something with Helena online, by all means do. A couple of things I want to say. A lot of people were sending in questions that I have kind of talked about before, so I won't go into them again here, but like, how do I get more evidence? How do I start? Where do I, all of this kind of stuff. What's the difference between psychism and mediumship? Things like that. In the Spirit Space community on my website, which is free to join, just go there. One of the sections of this is the new Mediumship Minute, and what that is every day a little YouTube short goes out, 90 seconds to 3-minute little video answering a lot of those questions. So as you can see, you can just scroll down. If you've got a question, you may find it in there. And then we've got the archive also of the old series I did, Mediumship in the Afterlife. So that's all free. Go check that out as well. You'll probably find answers to questions you have there. The other thing is lots of previous talks and workshops. They're all in the Spirit Space community as well. So have a nose around there. There's the one we did on storytelling, which was our last Simplifying Mediumship course. So that's there if you want to catch up on that. And then I also have attunement practices here in our free library that you can go along and practice as well. These help you with attunement, with presence, and different practices for open awareness practices. The open awareness is a great practice for the things that we're doing here today. It's a practice I learned from the wonderful Mingyur Rinpoche, Tibetan monk. These practices are pretty essential for mediumship, so I've made them available in short recorded guided meditations for you there as well. And then for anybody who's really interested in getting really solid foundation in mediumship, because what we're talking about here today is a little bit more intermediate or advanced, where you need to have the basics of being able to make a contact and receive evidence and whatnot. I do have the beginner's masterclass, the beginner's courses I was teaching. We've created masterclasses out of on my website. There is the beginners and there is an intermediate there as well. So if you're interested in doing some of the very solid foundational work, I recommend going along to those. You can also come along to our monthly live practice circles. So if you're doing this, you're not in a vacuum on your own, you can come along and practice the teachings with us in our group once a month. And then I just want to mention the course, the new course we've got coming up, which is on really focusing on this, learning these techniques, working with your mediumship to really deepen and enrich your mediumship by embodying character and presence. So in this course we'll really be trying to enrich and deepen mediumship, so we're able to work in a much more expansive and a much more evolved and developed way with our mediumship. So it's not about snatching evidence or getting facts or wrestling with sitters. We're actually going to take mediumship now to a new level where we're really focusing on the techniques and the pathways that we need to really simplify mediumship, to enrich it and to make it more authentic, to give it more authentic voice. So we'll put this link in your email as well. I have a little video here, which I was going to play for you, but I think maybe you might be able to watch that on your own. It's 3 minutes. Me talking about in more detail specifically what we're going to be looking at in this course. But there's lots of information there. Look inside the course here, you'll see all of the details. So it's quite a robust training that we're going to be doing in mediumship. So any of you who've done basic development is not suitable for beginners, but anybody who's really moving more into more of an intermediate where you can make a contact and place a contact, I do encourage you to think about coming along to this, because as most of you know, a huge advocate for really evolving mediumship to meet the needs of the 21st century. We really want to be able to move beyond snatching facts to really having voice and presence in our mediumship, because it's not the spirit world that makes that not happen. We limit it because we kind of think, oh, it's got to be this way. But once we can open our minds to see the way it can be, it just naturally, it will flow into your mediumship. So I do recommend that. We have a special offer. I know with the way things are at the moment, some people are feeling a little bit squeezed. So what we've done is we've made 4 partial scholarships available for the course. So that's on the honour system. If you need a little bit of help, you can just use that code when booking. There's 4 of them available. And so if you really need it, it's there, take it, all right? There's only 8 spaces in this course because I really want to make sure that I can give everyone the mentoring they need. So it's going to be a very small course. For the Europeans among you, it's going to be on a Saturday. So finally, you can all come instead of having to stay up until 2 a.m. to do a class. So we'll have it on Saturdays for June into middle of July. And like I said, if you need a little bit of help, the scholarship is there to help you along. So what I want to do is just do a small practice of starting to bring some of the techniques Helena was talking about into mediumship in a very, very simple way. Obviously, we've only got about 7 or 8 minutes, but just a very, very simple way to really start to bring a sense of sort of presence and recognizing the difference between presence in your loved ones. I'm going to invite all your loved ones to come and join us. I've already sent out the massive invitation. So while you think there are 50 people in the room, there's actually 500 people in the room. So we'll work with that in a few minutes. Just a very, very simple practice, just so you can get a sense of what it is. And then I'll open the chat at the end if anyone's got a couple of questions. So do come along to check out the Character and Presence course. I'm very, very proud of it. I've put a series of 3 of them together this year to really, really try to elevate mediumship into something that is bigger and much more authentic, much more healing, but also much more inspiring for us as mediums. So do check that out and come along. Somebody's asking me if what the work that they've done would qualify you. To apply for this course, I do ask you to sort of fill in on the form a bit of your information about your background. I want to make sure this is a very encouraging and positive experience. So I don't want somebody who's not got enough development to come in and then feel at sea and be discouraged, you know. And we have loads of free resources you can use and practice before the courses as well. So those are all there if you want to get a bit of a jump on some of the attunement practices and whatever. If you can, move yourself into the power, move yourself into attuned space, make a contact, get some evidence and place your contact. Really, that's just the basics of mediumship. So we need to be able to do that and to be able to do that fairly consistently. So if you can do that I'm not expecting everyone to come in and be stellar and sort of, you know, reading out entire memoirs of somebody's life. But the necessities you would need is the ability to make a contact, share enough evidence to be able to place the communicator, troubleshoot it a bit, but you need to be able to do that fairly consistently. I know sometimes, you know, we can't do that, but if you feel like you can do that fairly consistently, come along. If you can't make a contact and you can't get evidence, really go do the foundations course first, all right? So that's it. For anybody who wants to do the course who's going to miss a class, we will have recordings that will be sent out. I would ask you, if you're going to miss a class, to make sure you listen to it before the next one and do the practices. Now, you can do the practices from the class. If you've got a circle, do them tell your circle leader, I need to just practice this and do your practice. I just want to make sure that you can listen to the teachings and then go and do the practices before the next class. If you don't have a circle, you can join our Spirit Space Facebook group, and then you can post there for people to come practice with you and get the practices in during the week. And so that's not a problem. You can certainly do that. If you have any questions about, or do you feel like you are at a level already to take something like this, just pop us an email off and we'll get back to you by email. But I would say, as a baseline, as long as you can make a contact, get evidence and place your contact with it fairly consistently, and for as long as you are open-minded and willing to work, by all means, I would love to have you. I have 8 spaces, and sometimes not everybody comes live. Sometimes people are in other time zones, they can't make it, so we just sort of figure it out as we go. But I generally don't like having more than, for something like this, because it got such a focus and such focus. When I'm teaching the classes privately, I really try to keep them where I can sort of really give people the focused mentoring and attention that they need. And I can only do that if there's only a small number of people in the class. So I hope all that makes sense. I hope you enjoyed our gathering. I know I did. So it's going to be really good fun. It'll be a combination of working with yourself, your own presence, your own sort of the things that Helena's been doing, working with during the week, going out and sort of finding that sense of awareness and presence and attunement in the life. We'll be doing all of that. So it's not just going to be showing up on a Saturday. As I said, mediumship is not just something you do between 11 and 1 on a Saturday. It's something you are. It's how you move through the world. All right, so we'll be sort of starting to bring some of that attitude into it as well, which is marvelous because it really enhances your own development as well, not just your mediumship, but your own way of being and seeing the world. So as most of you know, I've been a practicing Buddhist for many years, so I always try to bring that sense of sort of presence and awareness and connection into the work. So we'll be working on that. So shall we just do a very small, little, short practice just to start getting a sense of embodiment? We did a little practice. Helena's practice was a beautiful practice in really bringing a sense of embodiment and presence and awareness into your own body, into yourself. What I want to do is just spend a few minutes, we'll just attune, we'll just invite some of your loved ones in. And I'm just going to ask you to maybe invite 4 people that you're close to in the spirit world just to come and join us here for a moment. Don't try to see them, reach them, understand them in your mind. Just surrender, trust them. They've been sitting here listening to me rabbit on all this time now, and now they get a chance to actually be present. So just send out an invitation very gently to maybe 4 of your close loved ones in the spirit world. Don't try to see them, know them, hear them, anything. Just send out the invitation and know that they are here, that they're sitting by you, that they are aware of what's of you and what's going on. Right? So just take a breath, come back into a gentle sense of presence and peace. Just inviting whoever you'd like to invite in, mum, dad, man, husband, whoever it is, child, cat, dog. Don't forget, you can also invite in your pets. And just sit now present with them. Don't try to see them or anything. Just know that they are there, that they have heard your invitation and they have responded. And just sitting present with them. Welcome, friends. Welcome, mum. Welcome, whoever their name is. I'm going to ask you to do is just really bringing your awareness to your heart center. And as you breathe, breathing in and out of the heart center, and just aware now of the spark of light, that spark of the spirit within you, that spark of divinity that is you. And as you breathe, just allowing that spark to expand so it fills your entire form, flows out beyond your form. The light of the spirit, the form from which you came and to which you will return. And just sitting here now, as the light of your spirit begins to fill the room around you, just experiencing how it feels to sit within the light of your spirit, realizing that the body sits within the spirit, that the temporary physical form sits within the eternal and infinite spirit that is emanating here from the heart of you. And just very gently, not thinking, but just feeling, how does it feel to be peaceful, to be relaxed, to be aware that the spirit within, that incarnate spirit, is limitless, infinite, and is part of the light of the one, part of the light of the one consciousness that pervades all dimensions, all space and all time. Aware that the light of the divine, of the Tao, the Brahman, the light of the source, the light of the one mind, surrounds you now so that you, the spirit within, and the spirit of all that is, becomes one. Not thinking, not trying to see. Surrender and be present within this power. Just allowing yourself feel your presence within the presence of all that is. And very gently just turn to your first loved one and ask your first loved one to move into this space with you. Don't try to see them or hear them. Just become aware of their quiet and beautiful, subtle energy as it steps into this space with you. Just opening your heart to feel how they feel. Open and receive. Don't reach, just receive. How does their presence feel? Just asking this person just to step back and asking your second person to step forward, to blend with you, allowing you feel how they feel. And you may notice a subtle difference between you, between your previous person, between this person, but don't try to reach with the mind. Surrender the mind, open the heart. Just feel how they feel as they share this space with you. Now thanking them and asking them just to step back and allow now the third person to step in to your heart space, to blend here their spirit with your spirit. Just very gently being aware and observing how they feel as they step in and blend with you. And again, surrender the mind, open the heart. Just being present, feeling their spirit as it blends with yours. Now asking them just to step back and inviting the fourth person to step in and blend with you. Blending here, one in the power and one in the spirit. Surrendering the mind and opening the heart. Just aware of the subtle change that may exist when they step in and share this space of the spirit with you. It's dark to the mind and radiant to the heart. Now asking them to step back and maybe just saying a few words. I love you, I miss you. Whatever words you would like to say to each of your person, each of your loved ones. Thank you. And just knowing you can return to this space at any time is always available to you. We are going to take our leave of our loved ones in spirit. We're going to step back now to our awareness of our physical form, this temporary form that we have borrowed for this trip around the sun. And just moving our awareness back to the physical world, to your weight on the chair, the air around you, the sounds and smells. And with a deep breath, making small movements and opening your eyes. Everyone back. Nobody decided to go, stay, hang out with their relatives. You all came back. Marvelous stuff. All right. So just as we're finishing up, I just open the chat again as well. If any of you again would like to just pop a one or a word or two in for how that felt. It's very, very subtle. The work of the spirit is very subtle, and that was very short. So, but the idea of inviting 4 different people in is that as we do this and as we sensitize to this, you start to notice the subtle changes in how different people you love feel. And when you can start feeling those subtle changes within yourself, and then the subtle changes within your loved ones, you can pop your word or two in there now, to begin to notice those very subtle changes in the energy of how your loved ones and your different loved ones feel, because they'll all feel a little different, right? Did you notice that there's a subtle difference in how your different relatives feel, or your different loved ones feel? You'll notice that naturally in other people's, complete strangers, other people's relatives, and immediately there, just right there and then, you've already taken the first step into enriching your mediumship. So Helena's saying warm, loving, and welcoming. Beautiful. Yeah. Intense and loving. Isn't it beautiful to feel that kind of love when we just surrender the mind to receive it? Supportive, lovely. The different heartbeats, isn't that interesting? Somebody felt different heartbeats. Marvelous. I actually could feel my heart, Helena, when you were doing your practice. I started being very aware that my heart was beating, which was really interesting as well. So yeah, beautiful, very protected. Yeah, lovely. Did you enjoy having a very short little visit with your loved ones? Isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to know we can just move ourselves into that level of sort of simple attunement and awareness and presence and feel their presence? The more we do it, the more this becomes a very spontaneous thing as well. I've often been watching TV and I suddenly can feel overcome with the presence of someone and go, oh, it's my mother, you know. So the more we do this, the more it just starts to flow naturally into our life, and it doesn't become some big task or some big mechanism or some big something, ritual we have to do. It just becomes a very, very natural flow in our lives. And then when we come to doing mediumship, to helping other people, it very, very naturally flows into the work that we're doing with them. So Victoria, oh, beautiful. Yeah, short and powerful. That's marvelous. Right. So did you enjoy that? Well, thank you. I want to say thank you to Helena as well, because that was a really interesting practice. I think it's really marvelous when we start to reach out beyond our sort of sphere of mediumship into some other sort of experimental form, bring in some other practices that can really enhance and enrich our mediumship. I think really helps us to sort of open up, take our sort of we don't even realize the limits that we pose on mediumship. And so I love when we start bringing in these practices and we start thinking, I can think about mediumship in a whole other way that makes it simpler, which we all love, and brings joy into it. Because how many of you get so stressed about your mediumship? Oh God, I've got to go make a contact and I've got 30 people looking at me, and oh God, right? We all do it, all terrified. Oh, what if nobody's there? And you know, we come to mediumship with so much stress and anxiety. It's like, God, how are they supposed to get through to us? We're going, what we want to do is bring in joy. And I think that when we start to work with these and understand how fluid and how beautiful it is, we can start to approach our mediumship joyfully instead of with anxiety. Right? And the joy, of course, as you know, makes everything so much easier. Isn't everything easier? Everything's easier. Even dealing with your neighbours is easier if you feel joyful. Right. Marvelous. It was lovely to see all your smiling faces and to see you all having a positive experience. And of course, huge thank you to Helena. Don't forget, check out Helena's website. We'll send you out all those links. Anybody also who's interested in any sort of public speaking or anything like that, I always recommend people go see Helena. All right. Beautiful. All right, everyone. Take care. Have a nice Memorial Day.
Thank you.
See you all soon. Bye-bye.